listening to the Theology of Games podcast, your source for gaming news, reviews, and interviews with the top voices in the industry. Find us online at theologyofgames.com. And now, here are your hosts, Scott Firestone and Jeremiah Isley.
Hey everyone, Jeremiah Isley here, and that is... It's just me. Hey, Firestone's not here right now. This is a very special edition version of the Theology of Games podcast, where we don't actually talk a whole lot about games, but we talk about the awakening of the Force. That's right, Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens. But who's the we in that conversation? My good friend Alan and I got together, Alan Gerding of Tuesday Night Games and the Tuesday Night Games podcast. He got a hold of me the night that the movie released, late Thursday night, and said, hey, let's record a podcast and talk about the new Star Wars movies because it's amazing and crazy and my mind's going to explode. And I said, yeah, that's a good idea, but I need to sleep for a few hours. So we did it the next morning. But anyway, that's too much information. So here's what's going to happen. We actually split this podcast into two. The first half, well, maybe more than a half, it's about an hour of it, is what I'm going to play for you right now. We're going to cut to that in just a second. If you want to hear the rest of our conversation, you can tune in at Tuesday Night Games Podcast, and it's up live there as we speak. Or you can just hang out here for a little bit, and about a week or so, I'm going to publish the rest of it here at Theology of Games Podcast. I will tell you this, it is full of spoilers. We hold nothing back. So if you have not seen the movie, you just stop right now. Don't listen any further. I don't want to be the one to ruin this for you. But if you have seen the movie, listen on, and you can hear our thoughts and our predictions and our breakdown of the characters, and so on and so forth. So what you're going to hear right off the bat is an introduction of myself and Alan, just so you folks can get to know each of us even a little better. And then we go into a conversation about the canon of Star Wars, about the books and all of the things that are taking place in the universe of the Star Wars right now, and also the board games of Star Wars. We chat about that because, hey, we talk about games. That's what we do. And finally, we talk about the characters of The Force Awakens. We talk about the new, we talk about the old that have come back, and we talk about just how we felt about them, what we liked, maybe we didn't like. And it's just a fun, in-depth conversation about something really, really nerdy and really, really geeky. And I think you're going to dig it. So again, this is kind of like a holiday special, but not the holiday special of Star Wars. And we're just kind of taking a break from the norm, and we'll be back at the beginning of the year with more of Theology of Games podcast. Firestone will be back. I'll be back. It'll be a great, great time. We'll have a lot of fun, and we're looking forward to it. But for now, let's jump in, and we're going to take it away with Alan and I talking about Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens. We'll catch you on the other side.
Hey, I'm Alan Gerding.
And I happen to be Jeremiah Isley.
We're doing a Star Wars Spectacular.
It's a special holiday thing, but it's not the holiday special.
The Star Wars Holiday Special, sponsored by General Motors.
Right.
Not to be confused.
Because our plan is we're going to put this on the Tuesday Night podcast and possibly
the Theology of Games podcast.
Yeah. So we should start off with why we should give a crap about each other. So, Jeremiah,
yes.
Who are you?
Who am I?
Yeah.
Do you know who I am? Do you even know who I... No. Hey, I'm Jeremiah. I am the co-founder, Big Cheese co-mastermind behind theologyofgames.com. We're a gaming blog. We also do a podcast, and we occasionally YouTube and Periscope. We're all over the internet, and we do a lot of gaming reviews and interviews and news and all that kind of stuff about board games and tabletop games, all those kind of geeky things. So that's a little bit about me. What about you, Alan?
Wait. I want to know why Theology of Games is better than any of the other review sites or reviewers out there. What makes you guys different?
Because because I write for it. No. We are, you may have guessed from the title, Theology of Games. We are a faith-based blog, I guess you would say. Scott, my partner, who lives out in Colorado and co-writes with me, he and I both met through a youth ministry conference. For years, I was a youth pastor, and he worked for a publishing company that produced resources for youth ministry and people who are involved in that. And so we look at gaming and this culture sort of through that lens. We don't necessarily shove all of our beliefs down your throat when you're reading our site, but definitely when things push back against the things that we believe in and our faith, we kind of put a light on that and say, hey, here's what we felt, here's what we thought. This might give you pause if your thoughts and your beliefs align with ours. So that's what kind of, I guess, separates us from most of the crowd.
Gotcha. You got that little spin. No, when I heard Theology of Games, I thought you guys were mythology guys, so you're going to talk a lot about Zeus and hair and things. No, I was wrong. No, I totally agree. I enjoy your site, and I will admit, you're one of my good friends.
Yes.
I love spending time with you. You're on the top of the list as far as people with whom I like to play games. Yet, I'm not Christian, so hopefully that doesn't kill your listeners right then and there. So it's interesting because we're different, but I think we also have very similar core beliefs in a way. We've had a conversation about that in depth, just personally.
We have had in-depth conversations.
Late nights.
Yes, and I was paying for it the next day, but it's always good to have those conversations. And, I think I'm
paying for it right now because I wanted to do this recording last night after we had just gotten back from Star Wars, but you wanted to be responsible and go to sleep. And
if I had not already been in bed when I got that message, I may have actually tried to make it happen, but here we are. It's still, just now, it's 9:23 a.m. Right about now, the movie was starting 12 hours ago.
So this is 12 hours stale.
I think that's pretty fresh, but...
Hey, look at the optimist versus the pessimist. Look at that already.
So, Alan, tell us a little bit about yourself for the listeners who may be listening on Theology of Games podcast
I
at
was
this moment.
So excited about Star Wars The Force Awakens that I didn't go to bed until almost 4 a.m. So I woke up to your phone call saying, "Are we doing this?" Like, "Well, yeah. You want a podcast?" I'm in your driveway. So I got to open the door in my underwear. But
thanks for that.
No problem. I am co-founder of Tuesday Night Games. We are famous in a very loose term. I guess we're known for 2 Rooms and a Boom, and upcoming at the time of this recording, a World Championship Russian Roulette by Anthony Birch. So that's who I am. We also run Tuesday Night Podcast, and we're just guys who like the gaming industry. We don't really do reviews. No, I make games. I'm basically game designer. If I were to make a resume, game designer would be there. So even though I only have one official game published, my name is in a whole bunch of cardboard as a developer, as a designer for other games, and a whole bunch of upcoming ones. So my business partner is Sean McCoy. Love him to death. We'd have a whole bunch of games, and we got a lot of exciting in the pipeline, but we work hard at going at the pace that we can go with together.
Yeah, I think if you are a listener of Theology of Games podcast, you know a thing or two about Two Rooms and a Boom, because I talk about it quite a bit. It's probably my favorite party game, especially for large groups. I've gotten to know Alan, like we just talked about a little bit ago, really well over the past, 2 years now?
Is it 2 years?
I think it's 2 years.
Yeah.
I've played a lot of your other games, and I feel privileged to be able to say that because most of them are really, really fun, and most of the other ones are on their way to being really, really fun. So
yeah, because a lot are still in development. Good point, because you help me playtest a lot of these things too.
I do.
Even
though you don't put me on the box.
What? You're not on the... Oh.
That's another story.
Well, I mean, to be fair, 2 Rooms and a Boom, you didn't play until it was fully developed. To be fair.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. But you did email me for a quote on the box.
That true. That didn't make it.
The box.
That didn't make the box.
I'm not upset about that at all.
If I could piss someone off and get away with it, who can I piss? Jeremiah.
He'll still talk to me
He'll
afterwards.
still talk to me if we leave the... No, it was honestly not enough room on the box for the
somebody
quotes.
Not as important as me.
Well, yeah, we went by listeners. Actually, we'll yell at Sean for that. But what's our anniversary? We met at the Extra Life?
Yeah, I think it was like November 1 of 2013.
Probably right. Yeah, we should
Somewhere
celebrate
there.
an anniversary at some point.
That might be a little creepy, but we'll go with it.
Come on. Let's do a little
Just don't
bromance.
tell my wife.
Right.
We'll be all right. Anyway.
But speaking of anniversaries and getting to know each other and new friends
And special events.
special events, let's get to the topic on hand, shall we?
We probably have to pay John Williams money for that now.
You know what? That's the one thing. I don't think my podcast has enough listeners for me to worry about just stealing that and throwing it in.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah. We'll see what happens. Because I don't know, that has to be a whole army of lawyers to find
Well,
my
it's Disney
podcast.
now. Oh! See, I think before, when it was just Lucas, he was totally cool with people using stuff from, totally infringing on the copyright of Star Wars to create this world of fandom. But I think at this point, with Disney involved, that might be getting clamped down a bit. So,
Speaking of changes,
proceed with caution.
yeah, let's talk about Force Awakens. We just watched it. But a lot of people were upset even before the movie was released because they made a list of what was actual canon for the Star Wars universe.
Yes.
So what they took out were all of the books.
All the books, except for the handful of ones that have been released since then, but all of them, including throwing out Grand Admiral Thrawn, which was the trilogy that Timothy Zahn wrote that basically would have been episodes 7, 8, and 9.
Right.
Which are being replaced by these movies.
From
It is...
my recollection, and you can probably correct me on this if
Okay.
I'm wrong. I got the big list because I read Star Wars Aftermath.
Yes.
In Star Wars Aftermath, in the book, it lists what's actual canon.
Okay. I have the audiobook, so I didn't get that list.
Okay, so the list is obviously episodes 4, 5, and 6.
Right.
Oh,
1,
man.
2, and 3.
Yeah, and 1, 2, and 3. I was going to say they did include 1, 2, and 3. So
Unfortunately.
so that's in there.
been included.
Well, we can talk about that a little bit too if we want. It depends how long we want this podcast to be. We should have decided that before we started recording.
Yeah, it's indeterminate.
The Star Wars Clone Wars cartoons,
The cartoon series, right?
are canon.
Yes.
Which
Which is a shame because I didn't like that last season.
It's interesting because I try to get into it, and this is blasphemy for a lot of people.
Uh-huh.
It is definitely a kid's show.
It is.
And I was watching it on Netflix. I would fall asleep to some episodes, and there's definitely a lot of episodes that aren't necessarily necessary. If you know what I mean, like nothing
Yes.
really happens.
Yes,
in them.
they don't really move the story along.
You're right.
Here's what's up with that series. As you progress through those seasons. Season 1 is very light. There are a lot of those fluffy kind of episodes. But then as you get to maybe season 3, it really starts to take some dark turns and it becomes a much more serious series. It is...
It ages as the audience does.
It ages as the audience does. However, the last season was the season that Netflix produced because Cartoon Network dropped the series. They canceled it. And it ends with like Yoda going to...
Plot spoilers?
Am I going to spoil this for you?
Plot spoiler warning for the cartoon.
He goes away, like it's like him going away before we find him on Dagobah and Empire. But there's like these 5 ghosts of the Force and all these. I don't know. It was really weird.
But it's canon.
They were trying to make the Force... I think they were trying to make the Force mysterious again.
Right.
Because George Lucas...
Because everyone
wet the
and
bed with
SBJ's
midichlorians.
neighbor's pet dog had the Force in
Right.
episodes 1, 2, and 3. Who
Right.
didn't have the Force, really?
I mean, my midichlorian count, I sent my blood away to get that tested. Didn't
right.
you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, but I felt like they did a poor job of it. And I was kind of saddened that it's canon, but
Gotcha.
I'll leave it at that.
So in order, there's episodes 1, 2,
The Clone Wars.
Clone Wars cartoon series,
Episode 3.
3, 4, 5, 6.
Yes.
The Aftermath. Aftermath is the book I read, which is interesting because the author admitted, and I think in a preface, that doesn't know the story of Force Awakens. So they didn't even say, here's everything
Here's
that
where
happens.
you have to get to.
Here's where you have to
Right.
get to. Instead, it was almost like the first season of Star Wars Clone Wars,
Yeah.
where it was just a self-contained story.
Yep.
It has its own unique characters, but it was still really cool, in my opinion, that it had the background of the aftermath of the second Death Star blowing up, and that the Empire is crumbling, and there were still people following it, but there was this, the rebellion was growing and becoming more and more back to the original
they were calling
Republic.
it the New Republic.
Exactly.
Yeah. The other book that's part of canon now is called Lost Stars, and it's before Aftermath. It kind of
How come I've never heard of this?
It just came out. I'm maybe a quarter of the way through the audiobook. I listen to books a lot because I don't like to read. It takes too much time. And I can't read while I'm driving my car.
Hence why we are talking about this instead of writing about this.
Exactly. But no, it takes place sort of parallel to the original trilogy, where the Empire is rising to power, and there's these two friends from this distant planet who are accepted to the Imperial Academy, and it's their story of going through the Imperial Academy, and stuff starts happening, and we're just at the point where things are starting to happen, so I don't know where it's going from there. So that is also canon, but it's a little more young adultish. It's
Then even Aftermath?
Yeah, it's not.
Whoa.
It's very. It's almost a teen age kind of
Hardy Boys.
There's like a little bit of romance that's starting to bud, and I don't know.
What was your opinion on Aftermath, since you're the reviewer guy?
It was.
I've got opinions on that.
There's such a hot topic in that book too that I don't know that we want to get into.
Oh yeah, that's a topic that you and I have talked about.
It is.
Here's
what I'll say about Aftermath. I thought the story was fun enough, and it was kind of cool to see more immediately after Episode 6, after Jedi.
Right.
So I like
the highlights definitely were that some people were sad that the Empire was crumbling because they liked the reliability and consistency.
Yes, and then there was this contingent of the Empire that was scrambling to keep things together and rebuild it, and it all revolves around that meeting that's
best parts of the book.
Yeah, so that was all very cool. Mm-hmm. So I liked it for that. I felt it didn't necessarily feel like a Star Wars story to me.
Here's what I will say. We already talked about the best parts. Worst parts, and hopefully this isn't a plot spoiler enough, because I probably don't want to plot spoil this one.
It's been out a long time, though.
Okay.
Long enough.
Well,
I think we can.
I like the robot, Mr. Bones.
Mr. Bones, yes.
I did like the robot.
Fun.
He was fun.
And I liked how they poked fun at the battle droids.
Exactly. So Mr. Bones is a refurbished battle droid from
episodes 1 and 2, and
right.
Maybe a little bit in 3.
What is that called? The Trade Wars? What would you call that? Because it's not the Clone Wars yet. It was the clones against the droids, so I guess it is from the Clone Wars.
Yeah, but everybody knows what we're talking about.
Right, but it's refurbished to be a bad Mama
Jamma.
Yeah, bad Mama Jamma.
Yeah, he's got, one of the characters is like a scrapper, like a scavenger, so he finds this thing, he reprograms it, he tricks it out with these clattering bones that he's like attached to it, so it's like this kind of spooky, scary thing, and it's got this whirring voice that's kind of supposed to be haunting and whatnot. Thought that was really cool. Very cool character.
I'm not sure if I should bring it back up because it's a hot topic, but the moment you're talking about is one character says to another, female character to a male character the man says, "I've got a question for you," and she says, "Yes." Like, wait, what are you talking about? You don't even know my question. She says, "I will breed with you."
Yes.
Or, "I will mate with you."
You are suitable for mating.
You're suitable for mating. And he says, "Oh, that wasn't my question because I don't swing that way," basically.
Right.
Informing her of his sexual orientation.
I'm not into that. And she goes, "Aliens?" And
because they're not even the same species.
Right. He goes, "No, men or women." And she's like, "Oh."
And then that's all they say about it.
Right.
And then they go on from there. I thought it was an interesting injection of diversity that they put in there without celebrating it or downplaying it. It was just one of these things where it was there, it was said, it was kind of a joke in a way.
They kind of joked with each other a little bit after it, just for a moment or two.
It was literally just in a page or two. But it was one of these things that was like, so don't worry about, we're not going there in this story.
Right.
So was it necessary? Probably not at all.
Probably not.
It was definitely for a comedic thing and for diversity. So
here was my take on that. Because I've thought a lot about it, and there's some people that went off and, "Oh my gosh, blah, blah, blah," just totally flipped out about it. Here's why I didn't like it. And I didn't necessarily like it. Because when that happened, it immediately brought up in my mind every snarky Facebook post, every combative Facebook post, all of the tension of the world that I currently live in was brought to the forefront of my mind during a Star Wars story. It was a political, it was a timely, it was a very...
If it was written 20 years from now or 20 years in the past, that probably wouldn't be in there.
It wouldn't have been a thing. Right. And I also feel like it was really forced and it didn't necessarily lend itself to the deepening of the character. But I go to the Star Wars galaxy to get away from all of that.
From everyday
I want to have fun. I want to enjoy it. I don't want to think about political things or people getting uptight about stuff. So to me, it was like you just kind of tainted the water of Star Wars with something that was completely pushing some agenda or whatever you want to say. Don't do that with Star Wars. Don't cheapen Star Wars that way. That was my take.
Gotcha. My take was on the other end, not so much that I was celebrating as in like, yeah, but my take was, oh, that was funny. I didn't spend too much time thinking or dwelling on it at all. I was too into the story. I was too busy turning pages to really even dissect it too much.
Right.
But I will disagree with you a bit. I did think it added a little bit of the character development because that question was in the back of my mind. Oh, yeah. I like the interplay between these two characters. I can totally see an entire series just with these two characters.
Sure.
And that kind of adds to it because now that's off the table.
Right.
And I thought it was funny that it was totally on the table for her. And then he's like, oh, what? So I appreciated that moment as a comedic beat, but also as a statement of, hey, if you're going to continue to enjoy these two characters, you can't think about them in this context because that's off the table.
Removed. Right.
Been removed. But let me go back to my other thoughts of Aftermath, and here's a little bit plot spoiler again. We've already spoiled a lot, I guess. Actually, not really. We haven't actually talked about the story.
No.
But this one is a bit spoiler. I'll say this at first. George R.R. Martin and Game of Thrones, this book is not. Because if you know Game of Thrones, what really stands out with George R. R. Martin's approach to characters in Game of Thrones? Do you want to answer that?
You can go ahead.
Okay, because I'm not sure your opinion.
I'm not big, like really deep into
Game of Thrones, that kind of thing. I can see that because it's a whole bunch of sex and violence, and it's definitely
So it's right up your alley.
There you go. He kills off his characters, and one of the frustrating things was, oh, this is a book for kids because no characters,
nobody's dying,
no one's dying. None of the protagonists are dying.
Right.
There's plenty of death,
and there were a lot of moments where you're like, oh.
And that pisses me off because...
And then...
And they do that like 3 friggin' times.
With like the same character even.
Yeah. Ridiculous. Like, just frustrating. Like, oof.
Yeah. I remember listening, I'm like, oh, maybe she really is gone. And then...
I just assumed she was gone because...
Minutes later, she's at some hospital or whatever it was.
It's a cheap tactic to say, like, this person's dead and have that emotional moment.
Pull you in.
Like, let's mourn, and the stakes are high and the stakes are real. Oh, but wait, this character's not dead. And you're like, oh, that was cheap.
Right.
Number 2, the stakes aren't high. Because I'm thinking these characters are invincible now.
That's true. Yeah.
Here's the one thing about George R. R. Martin. He said in an interview, when did you know you were going to kill off basically what was the main character in the first book? And he said, right away. Because his big complaint about most stories in this melodrama society that we're in right now, and melodrama being good guys win at the end, it's not opera, it's not tragedy, is good guys win. He said he needed to make sure then, well, who would be the main character then? Well, he knew he had to kill this person too. So basically, once people start to get comfortable and say, oh, this isn't a real world, I can trust that this person is too important to die, George R. R. Martin says, we gotta kill him.
Yeah.
Because then the stakes are low. In fact, a lot of people argue the worst thing you could ever kill in any storyline is death itself. Because without that, you just can sit back and relax and always know how the story's going to end.
Well, and there's something to be said for that jarring moment of the protagonist or the hero dying. Hitchcock did that with Psycho.
It was brilliant.
When the only character whose point of view you saw was killed
at the end of the first act.
Right. Everybody was like, whoa.
We just spent 40 minutes
getting to know this person. So it really is brilliant storytelling.
That was really upsetting. And then when they did it again, I was thinking, all right, come on. Because the second time it got me a little bit like, oh wait,
Oh, there, yeah. Well, no.
maybe they're gonna fix the mistake that no.
Yeah, they pulled a Chuck Testa.
Yeah, what's a Chuck Testa? Is that
Nope.
Oh
Testa?
yes,
Yeah. There you go. Anyway,
You probably thought this deer was alive, and this coyote was alive, and this pheasant was alive. Nope, they're not. They're dead. They've been taxidermized by Chuck Testa. Ojai Valley Taxidermy.
Hey, but we're board gamers.
We are.
So before we dive into Force Awakens, we're already like 20
which I'm
minutes.
really like chomping at the bit to get at.
Yeah, me too.
So-
Me too. We'll get there.
All right.
But just to make it do our audience justice, Star Wars games. There's a lot of them.
There are.
Have you played any?
We pulled up a list here right before we got started, and I feel like it's been truncated. Like there's more.
We could only find top lists. We didn't look really hard, but we were looking for complete list of Star Wars games.
So
but there's so many.
There's so
throughout
many.
all of the years. It's ridiculous.
The problem with the top list games that are on this list are they're really expensive. Like Armada, it says that it's $70 here, but it's like $100. Let's just be honest. Armada, Imperial Assault.
Yeah, because Armada is the big fleet battles,
Yes.
and then X-Wing is a smaller where you have the individual
It's more of a
ships.
dogfight, and then
Right.
Imperial Assault is minis, so it's more of a
Imperial Assault is Descent.
in Star Wars skin.
Right, meshed together. But I hear really good things about Imperial Assault. I want to get my mitts on that.
I've heard amazing things about it. So those three games, I've only played X-Wing. And let me tell you, X-Wing is fantastic. I always say, me and my friends always played Pirates, the constructible strategy game, where it's the little ships that you punch out of the cards and you build them and then...
Out of print now.
Yes, long out of print.
Pretty. It's a gorgeous game.
It's a great game. It's so fun. If they had the movement mechanics of X-Wing, that game would still be in print. Because X-Wing, the way you move and the way you strategize is so amazing. It's so fun. I really like X-Wing a lot. The problem with X-Wing is the same problem with Imperial Assault and the same problem with, I'm assuming, Armada. Although I don't know for sure, so don't quote me on this, is it's a money sink.
Yeah, you got to buy the ships. You got to buy in.
Ships. They release all these troops. That's how they make their money. I understand that, but it's really, really hard to stay up on all of it.
I'm really curious about Imperial Assault because I'm a Descent fan, because I'm a Hero Quest fan. That's how I got into board gaming, and Descent is the most modern version of Hero Quest today. But there was some little clunkiness to Descent that I didn't really like. You had to get the special expansions to make it campaign, but from what I hear, Imperial Assault is Star Wars Descent, but simplified, fixed, and right out of the gate, it's campaign.
Nice.
Yes.
That's good.
Yeah, so you're leveling up, you're doing different things.
Yeah, I definitely want to get my hands on that.
But as far as other games, card games, I mean, just throughout the years of Star Wars games, there's the collectible card game, has had a couple iterations.
Yeah, that went through a couple editions, and I actually still have boxes and boxes of that in my basement at home.
I've heard good things, and I played it once, but so long ago, I don't remember.
Yeah, I don't feel like I could even comment on it. I played it a few times. A huge collection of it came to me. I've just kind of been holding on to it because it's Star Wars. I'm like, someday it's going to be worth a lot of money, so maybe I'll sell it on eBay.
Right.
I also played the Living Card game, which is by Fantasy Flight.
Yeah.
I have not yet played the Balance of the Force expansion, which allows you to play 2 to 3 light side players against 1 dark side player. I've played it 1 light side player against 1 dark side player, and if you're the light side player, you just get ready to die. Because there's no way you're winning. The dark side is way too powerful. In my opinion, it was a little broken out of the gate. But I remember they kept delaying that game forever. So I think they kind of were like, all right, let's just get it out and then we'll fix it with that expansion. I like the living card games, but it's probably not the best one out there.
If memory serves me correct, and it often doesn't, so I'd have to check this out because we're coming in here pretty unprepared, and that was kind of the beauty of what we're doing right now.
Right.
Is
we wanted to get in here
fresh
and talk about Star Wars because it's the big thing.
So forgive me, I know that's a pet peeve because we're a podcast, we should look this up, but I think the living card game is based on the collectible card game, and it's one of those classic transformed into a living card game from the collectible card game.
It does have similar mechanical aspects. I would say that.
Okay, but it's not just an obvious, this is the same
It doesn't.
game. Okay, cool.
I don't know. Like I said, I don't know the collectible card game well enough to say that for sure. But it's not. It doesn't seem super obvious.
It's kind of like 3D movies. You can tell when a movie was made originally for 3D, and when they went back and made it 3D.
Added, right.
Same thing with like the living card game. For the Game of Thrones living card game, it is the collectible card game, except they tell you which cards to use, and you can buy. It's kind of. Yeah. It has that feeling of, this isn't original. But Lord of the Rings living card game was made
as a living card game.
Exactly.
And it is fantastic.
Amazing.
It's my favorite of them all.
Right.
And I've played several.
We should get into this. We've done our service.
Yes, we've talked about canon, talked about board games.
So at this point, we're going to go into plot spoilerific.
Yeah, so if you have not seen the movie, which at this point, why?
If you're listening to this, you've seen the movie.
So just be ready, because there are things that we're going to say that are probably going to spoil things for you.
Right. And maybe we'll just kind of warm up. We'll start with generalities, and then go to specifics. For instance, in general, what'd you think? Thumbs up? Thumbs down?
Big thumbs up. I thought this is the movie. Let me just blow your mind for a minute.
Keep on going.
Think if episodes 1, 2, and 3 were done at the same quality storytelling, character development, and production value as episode 7.
That was actually something that was almost upsetting. As I'm watching them, thinking, freaking prequels.
I kept getting images of like Jar Jar Binks stepping in poop.
That was one of my big things.
And completely not a single
zapping his face, so he's
right, and not a single real life clone troopers in episode 2. Like they were all CGI. I just kept getting. I'm like, what were they thinking? Why? Who thought that was a good idea?
Yeah. So the main thing that I really loved, because I agree, big thumbs up.
Yeah.
The humor. The humor was back, because my father really hates episodes 2 and especially episode 3, because he said there's no humor. And when I go back and I watch episodes 4, 5, and even 6,
the zingers are there.
They're there, and it's character humor.
Yes.
It's not immature slapstick humor.
It's situational, character-driven humor.
And in fact, some of it's improv. Like one of the funniest, most memorable lines was from episode 5, I love you.
I know.
But I'm talking about the movie.
Yeah. Well, okay.
All right, I was quoting the movie. So, anyways, hilarious, right? And unforgettable. And that was improv by Harrison Ford, because he thought Han Solo wouldn't say "I love you too," which was in the original script. But amazing things like that. And as a kid, I thought C-3PO was annoying. As an adult, yeah, he's a Poindexter, but he's amazing. And so my wife hasn't watched the movies original. And so I got the Blu-ray collection.
Yeah.
And she watched episode 4. And here we are laughing as adults in our 30s at C-3PO and R2-D2's interaction.
Right.
It's good stuff. But then you go to episode 1, stepping in poop, defeating droids. The one amazing thing for the prequels that I did was reading the theory that Jar Jar Binks is actually the mastermind behind it all.
Right.
And it adds a bit of appreciation. And someone really went to great lengths to actually make this believable,
It should be made canon. Just to make that palatable.
Exactly.
But it probably won't be.
Yeah. I was going to say that too, but I can't pronounce it. Palpable.
Palatable?
Palatinable?
Palpatinable?
Yeah.
Yeah, anyway.
Yeah, so the humor was great. And the other thing I loved, so big thumbs up, was it allowed moments to simmer. I imagine episodes 1, 2, and 3 was people like special effects, people like lightsaber battles, people like
big shiny cities that are entirely made of the planet.
They like sound effects, they like this. Let's do that. And so
let's just cut to a scene of somebody walking up to each other and then talking and then cutting away. What?
Right. But this one had genuine, believable moments. It let itself simmer.
There were many good moments.
Yeah, moments where it was a dialogue between two individuals, but even the lack of dialogue was great because they had genuine, they didn't belabor it. It wasn't like, why are we looking at these two people look at each other?
There were reaction. There was...
We were there. It was human.
Yeah.
It was believable.
Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
A friend of mine who I was with thought maybe a bit of a downside was there was a ton of information thrown at us very, very quickly. You had to catch up on everything that had happened and where we were and who was who and what was what. Did you have that feeling?
I was never overwhelmed. I didn't
necessarily have that feeling, but I could understand a little bit of what he was saying. Like, wow, there's a ton of new characters. Who's that? Why is he this person? But I don't know that I felt that as much.
No, I definitely didn't. In fact, that added to it because, for instance, here's like our first real bit of plot spoiler.
Yeah.
When it came up to Rey, she has a past where her family was taken away from her. They didn't go into details as to why her family was taken away. You don't know exactly why she thought they were coming back.
Right.
You don't even know why she's so in tune with the Force. But that added to it to me because I'm like, man, I want to know.
Yeah.
I want to know.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I never thought it was Deus Ex Machina where someone came down and explained, this is what's happening and you should know this. It was never like that. Instead, it had that maturity where it didn't spoon feed us. We were there, and in a way, we were Finn and we were Rey.
Yes.
Both of them were great because the beauty of episodes 4, 5, and 6 is we have the point of view of Luke Skywalker because we're these naive people just new to this world. We don't really know what's going on.
Right.
We're just these small farm town people
and
just getting an eyeglass look into this
and
thing.
we're escorted into those stories through 3PO and R2 because they kind of, you start with them and Leia, and then it takes you through the story and you're introduced to Luke and you're like, whoa, I don't know what's going on. I can relate to Luke because he doesn't know what's going on, and it starts unfolding in front of you. And yeah, I felt that way with Finn and Rey, and I really immediately connected with those characters. And I think that's the other thing I really liked about it is that the development of the characters was so strong.
Right.
And I really think that gets down to just really, really good direction.
Here's one of the main criticisms of the prequels I heard, and I forget who did this. Again, we're doing this and didn't research this, but it was very impactful. They did a man on a street interview, and they said, hey, who are the main characters, or who is the single main character for episode 4, 5, and 6? And most people said, well, Luke Skywalker.
Right.
Like, who's the main character for episodes 1, 2, and 3? And a lot of people said, I see your point. I see your point, right? But there's definitely these main characters. It's Rey and Finn for this, for sure.
Absolutely. Very well developed characters.
Yeah.
Speaking of characters,
you want to just do a character rundown?
Yeah, let's run down all the characters and just say what we liked, what we didn't like, to maybe.
Okay, I'll say a name. You talk about it. Let me know your feelings.
All right.
We'll start with Finn.
I was raised to do one thing, but I've got nothing to fight for.
I feel like the movie is almost an origin story for Finn because of who he is and where he comes from.
What is his origin?
His origin is we see him on this raid with the First Order, which is the replacement of the Empire, and he can't pull the trigger. He's ordered to kill innocent people.
Right away, humanizing.
And he can't pull the trigger. And he's freaking out because he just saw one of his fellow troopers get killed and there's blood on him. And he's completely humanized and he doesn't even have a name. He gets named Finn by
the pilot,
Poe Dameron. So, I loved him. And then he picked up on that, like, man, I'm just making this stuff up. I'm trying to get out. Like he starts, he says that he's with the resistance just to like get away.
It was a great moment.
It was this really fun.
He's like, why are you rescuing me? Because
it's the right thing to do.
He's like, you need a pilot.
And
I need a pilot.
There's this immediate spark between him and Poe of like, okay, yeah, oh, right, let's just do this.
Right. Yeah. Let's not blow smoke up each other's bums. Let's just realize.
Let's just go for it. So
we're both trying to get out of here. That's good enough. Let's do this.
Poe Dameron.
Great character. Love the actor.
Yeah.
And he's in, they don't give his name, but he's in the opening. And they say he's the most, the bravest pilot? Or the boldest pilot? Something like that?
Something, he's one of the top pilots of
the Resistance. Right,
yes.
Which is the rebellion replacement. He's the top pilot, and he's on a secret mission to find Luke Skywalker. So this guy's a big deal in the Resistance right away before you even see him. And he has the first comedic line, which made me realize my father's going to like this movie.
Yes.
Because Kylo Ren captures him and he has him kneel in front of them and he's staring at, and there's one of those moments where they're just staring at each other, and finally, what does Poe say?
He's like, so do you talk first or I talk first?
How does this work?
I loved it because it was this really tense moment.
And it just totally broke it.
And it totally immediately told me, oh, this guy, he's a wisecracker. Like he's not afraid. He's not intimidated by the First Order. Like, he's a rebel. He's a real rebel, which really played well into who he was for the rest of the movie.
So we did Finn, did Poe.
Yes.
Let's go Kylo Ren.
Nothing will stand in our way. I will finish what you started.
I've got so many things to say about Kylo Ren.
Wow.
Yes.
I'm getting like chills just thinking about him because
I've got so much to say. I want to hear you, though.
You know, I kept seeing pictures of him and images of him in the trailer.
Which is a
and
weird
everything.
build-up, right? Because the build-up to the movie is, who the hell is Kylo Ren?
Right, like, who is this guy?
Is he Luke Skywalker?
Right, there's that whole stream of thought that, he's Luke Skywalker. He hates Skywalker. He's turned to the
killed
dark
Skywalker.
side. And, he's such a deep, tortured, just brooding, rage-filled character, like so confused.
Yeah.
There's the line where he's like, I feel the pull of the light. And you're like, who turns away from that? Like, why would you resist that? You know, that's so not our nature. We feel the pull of the dark and we're trying to turn the other way. And it's like completely opposite of how you would think somebody would feel. And it's like,
that scene with Han was just really, I mean, we all knew what was going to happen.
I was ready to burst into tears when that was coming. I was like, I knew it was
coming. So
coming.
here's the thing. You knew it was going to happen, and I'm going to talk about this later on because I'm going to do a whole little spiel on homage or ripoff, but that's going to be at the end.
Right.
But you knew going into there for a whole bunch of elemental reasons, knowing Han is his father. Here's a confrontation again, father
Spoiler.
and son. Yeah.
Han is Kylo Ren's father.
Right.
What?
So, yeah. They meet on a platform, which has nothing but a pit below.
Where are the handrails? Somebody put rails on that thing. Oh my gosh. I was getting like anxiety, like agoraphobic, because
it's a well-known fact, Jeremiah.
I saw it in 3D, and it was like...
Me too.
Oh!
In Star Wars...
There are bottomless pits.
Yeah, there's bottomless pits. They have blasters. They have They have light speed travel. No handrails.
No handrails.
No handrails. That's well-known canon.
OSHA does not exist in the Star Wars galaxy.
That's why they're able to do the things they're able to do, because without the I mean, that's the metaphor, man.
It's true.
It's all the safety checks that are keeping us back.
Go wide open.
I think Hitler said that first, but anyway, so we knew what was going to happen. How were they going to do it, though? That was the important thing. You know, when he was saying, I'm being torn in two,
I know what I have to do.
Will you help me?
I don't know if I have the strength to do it.
And he's like, no, I'll help you. You're
oh my gosh.
Yeah. And then when he saw it, no surprise, but still just as wrenching.
Man.
Yeah. Yeah, I heard Harrison Ford had said he thinks they should have killed off Han in the original trilogy.
Right, he said either in episode 4 or 5, he wanted him to be killed off. He didn't want to do anymore, like, just, this character needs to die because whatever. And then he came back and said, I'm so glad that they didn't because of how episode 7 turned out.
Really good stuff. So, Kylo Ren, here's my big take on Kylo Ren.
Yeah.
I love the mystery and the power behind him. And the moment he took off his helmet, the character changed instantly.
Instantly.
Because no longer was he this Vader type that was scary.
Right.
He was this hurt, human, vulnerable.
Yeah.
You empathize with him.
Yep.
Because we all have those struggles inside of us.
Yeah. I thought the same thing. When he took off the mask, I was almost...
There's that moment of disappointment.
I was like, oh...
That was such a mistake. Why
did they do that? But then... as that scene plays out, you're like, oh my gosh.
Goodness.
Like,
he's the Anakin that Hayden Christensen should have been.
You are so right.
He was able to do in 2 to 5 minutes what Hayden Christensen couldn't do in all of episode 2. Yep.
So it was funny because afterwards I was like, he was so awesome. And my friend's wife was with us and she's like, I didn't like him. The actor was so ugly. And I was like,
that's the point.
That's exactly why he's so
You look
awesome.
at him, like, he's a doofus. Like,
he's this, right. And he's like, you can tell like the dark side is like totally tearing him up. And it's the force of that putting upon. It was.
Which brings me
I would say probably my favorite character.
He's definitely saturated. There's so much there to work with.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot there with Rey. I think there's a lot there with Finn. I think Poe, he's fun, but I'm not sure about the depths because he's too like every guy.
He
down
is
the
what
street.
he is. He's the bad boy Top Gun.
I think that's
pilot,
it exactly.
Fighter pilot.
You get what you see.
It's a great character.
But as far as deep, no, and that's kind of his appeal. He's not deep. But
Yeah, he's
Kylo
just
Ren,
fun and he's out
like
there.
they could do anything with him in the future episodes. He could come back to the light. He could not. And I have so many predictions on what might happen. Oh my goodness. But I want to talk about General Hux.
Yes.
Played by Domhnall Gleeson, which is an actor that I've really liked. He was in an episode of Black Mirror, which is an amazing series that I recommend anyone watches. It's basically what if this was real technology in the future. It's amazing.
Okay.
He was in, I think it's called About Time. Again, we didn't research this. It's a movie where he can time travel in his own life. But normally that actor plays the most affable, lovable characters. He is like the nice guy that you instantly like.
Yeah.
Because he's usually bumbling, he's English, and he's scrawny and thin, and he's a ginger. He was in the movie Ex Machina as well.
Okay.
And he's basically like the Jimmy Stewart equivalent, but he's like Jimmy Stewart meets something weaker and milder. You hire Jimmy Stewart if you wanted your audience to instantly like him.
Right.
And here he is in a role as General Hux.
And he was angry.
Yes.
And power hungry.
Yes.
I guess to parallel this with like episode 4, Kylo Ren is kind of the Vader figure. Mm-hmm. He's the guy in the Empire who's kind of running things, and he's
wearing a mask,
in tune
wearing
with
black.
the Force. He's like the Sith Lord, and General Hux is kind of like the Grand Moff Tarkin. He's the military leader of the Empire, and he's kind of running things. But he was so angry. Like I guess that's like the way I would describe that character. He's just so angry at everything, and he's trying to complete these missions, and I gotta do this, I gotta do that, why can't we, let's activate this weapon, and and just totally
impatient too, like let's do this.
Yeah.
But that was one of my favorite parts of the movie. Favorite relationships was the relationship between General Hux and Kylo Ren, where they're competing.
Yes.
Total competition.
Yes.
They're sizing each other up.
Right.
Totally competing like rival siblings for Supreme Leader Snoke.
Supreme Leader Snoke. If there's a character that I thought they might have fallen a little short with,
Supreme Leader Snoke.
It's Snoke. Played by Andy Serkis, who we all know is motion capture guru, Gollum. And
Planet of the Apes. He's Caesar in Planet of the Apes.
Yeah, he's just done a ton of stuff out there. I like Andy Serkis. I think he gave a good performance. I think the character, just the character itself, looked a little too fake. Like we talked about this.
Too CGI.
Little CGI.
In a movie full of practical effects.
Yes.
Like the idea that BB-8 is an actual robot that they remote control.
It's mind-blowing.
Exactly.
Right. He was just too CGI. He looked almost a bit Gollum-ish.
Yeah.
And a friend of mine said he looked a lot like Voldemort.
Yeah.
From the Harry Potter series. And I think it's a cool idea. He's like the emperor figure. Mm-hmm. He's training Kylo Ren in the ways of the dark side, and I'm sure there's this great story of who he is and where
one
he
of my
came
predictions
from.
Is that he's actually really short, because that was a hollow
I
projection.
said that too. Yeah.
He's actually really short because the hollow projection of him being
just giant,
3 stories tall.
Very relieved when he disappeared as a hologram, because I was like, is this a giant?
Right.
That's kind of stupid.
Yeah.
And then he disappeared. I was like, okay.
So I really like that moment, because you're like, oh, he's probably compensating. He's forcing them to look, because realistically, he could just be a little thing on the table.
Right.
So it's interesting that there's this entire chamber just dedicated to talking
to his hologram, which is very Emperor Palpatine-ish, where he would be this big hologram like an Empire. And he was, right. Yeah. So...
But here's my question is, would he have been better if it was just a voice or a faceless person? Who
something
is this?
Shrouded, something more, a little
or would
more
that
mysterious.
There's the whole homage versus
there's definitely
rip-off.
definitely parallels to
I've got a
episode
list.
4. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I could just go through it because this is one thing the haters are going to say rip off, but the lovers are going to say, oh, it's a callback, an homage,
Right,
or homage, however you want to pronounce it,
Right.
to the originals.
Yeah.
We haven't talked about Rey.
Who are you? I'm no one.
Rey's character just kind of jumps out at you immediately. She's tough. She's on her own on this desert planet, which is not Tatooine. Thank you.
Jakku, right?
Jakku, yes. She was one of those characters, again, where you felt like, oh, I've got her figured out. In the first 90 seconds, 2 minutes, you get who she is as a person. Now, more keeps getting revealed, and there's certainly more to her that we're going to find out.
Right.
But you get a sense of who her personality is, what this life of her on her own on this planet has been. You know, she's scavenging parts from old Imperial walkers and Star Destroyers so that she can go and get food. Like, she's just doing that to survive.
This is her life.
That's her life. And then you find out she's waiting for her family to come back because her family apparently abandoned her there.
You don't know if they were taken, if they were abandoned, until later on it showed in a flash where her family was being ripped from her when she was just a little girl.
Right. So there's this traumatic thing that happened in her past that's revealed. Played very well by Daisy Ridley. I love the scenes where her and Finn are running. She's like, "Why? I can run without you holding my hand."
Humor again.
You know, just these funny things.
Yeah.
And then they turn that around when he was on the ground and she hands her hand to him and he takes it and they go, like, it was just this back and forth between the two already, like scene 1 with them together.
Right.
So that was really fun.
Obviously, super strong character.
Yeah.
Super independent.
Yeah.
But right away, they have what they call killing dog moments, which this movie was full of. So what are the killing dog moments? Are these instances where you basically spoon feed the audience what this character is like because what they've done in these situations. For instance, they called the dog killing moments because classically, if you want your audience to instantly know who a character is, you have them either kill a dog or you have them save a dog's life.
Right.
House of Cards with Kevin Spacey did a very classic mix in this because, like, the first episode opening up, there's a dog that's dying and he decides he has to put the dog out of its misery because its life is basically ruined and mangled.
Right.
And that defines his character. In this one, for Finn, it was not shooting the innocent villagers, basically.
Yeah.
And for her, it definitely was the BB-8 moment. Like, first, when she helped him, that was really nice, where she saved him from being just stolen from the one guy. But also when she was offered all the food she could need, because she was getting a quarter and a half, and then he offered her 60
portions. Right.
Yeah.
He was kind of giving her these little packets of whatever that turned into bread and stuff, which was really cool effect.
Right.
So she turned down instead of getting quarter at a time.
And that's
or
what
half
she's
at a
living
time.
for
Right.
whole-
That's her existence.
And
is
now
to
we
get that
know,
food.
wait, she doesn't care about that.
So now
even though
there's
she's-
something bigger. Like she felt that there was something right about helping.
Right.
Which is kind of a play off of Finn saying, "Oh, it's the right
the right thing to
it's the
do.
right thing to do. You
Right.
need a pilot." You know.
Yeah, that was that kill the dog moment. So it really defined her right then and there. And then, of course, there's the kill the dog moments. So Finn wanting to run away, just like
Right.
Han Solo wanted
Right.
to run away. But the big defining moment for Finn was he didn't care what was going on. He just knew he wanted to save Rey.
Yeah.
And the cool thing about those characters that I loved about this movie, they are each other's family instantly. Because she doesn't have a family. Finn doesn't have a family.
Right.
They've got no one. And they instantly bonded, holding hands at first. And
Yep.
the thing they have in common is they just want to help.
Right. They want to do what's right. They want to get away.
They
They
get
want to
away,
be safe
just-
and
Save BB-8s, get away, make sure, I
Yeah.
like this person I've connected to. So all that matters was gotta save.
Right. He sees her in trouble. He's got to go save her. We also, this is another big spoiler, but we find out that she is Force adept.
Right.
Which we never knew anything of in the trailers. Because
Right.
you always see Finn holding the lightsaber.
I'll go with predictions. I think he has some force in him as well.
I do too.
Kylo Ren noticing him right away.
Yeah. But we found out that she's Force adept. And
In a way I didn't think was possible. First thing she does is force mind control. That's upper level stuff, man.
Yeah, that's like, you don't learn that until you're like way developed, which is interesting to see how powerful she is because she's already besting Kylo Ren, who's been trained in the Force
Right.
by Luke and by Snoke. And here she is just discovering her power, and she's already besting him and blocking him from her mind. And I was
She reads his mind. Great moment there.
That was another great, especially
She even
for
says
Kylo
grandfather, doesn't she?
Yeah, she does.
We got so many background things going on. It's amazing.
It was empty.
We got juggling little people over here too. It's just we're trying to keep them quiet.
Yeah, when she mentions the grandfather, and I was like, oh, like that was just a great scene.
Great moment. And even, of course, classically, she bests him again with the force pull of the
when
lightsaber.
she's getting the lightsaber. Yeah, so really cool stuff. And I'm really excited to see where her character goes. Who else do we have left?
There's Gwendolyn Christie.
Captain Phasma, I thought, was very secondary, very on the outskirts of the storyline, but some fun callbacks between her and Finn towards the end of all of that.
Yeah, right now I'm trying to look up.
Oh, yeah.
Simon Pegg, in the making, he's like, all of the moments of my acting have led up to this.
Yeah.
And then his character is Unkar Plutt, which is...
Right.
Who was that? I think that was the trader, like D, was giving her the portions. It's amazing that Simon Pegg, this actor who's pretty famous and has a huge following all of himself,
was just happy to have this small bit part
ridiculous
in Star Wars, right?
Yeah.
I mean, so awesome.
What other characters?
So I guess maybe moving on to some of the classic characters.
Han Solo, General Leia,
yeah.
Chewbacca.
So maybe save Han Solo just for the very end of the characters. So Chewie I thought was great. There was some really funny moments when Chewie gets shot in the arm.
Right.
When we first see him, there's this whole scene on, they've got this new freighter and they confiscate the Millennium Falcon again, which was a fun scene when we first saw the Millennium Falcon.
Is it called the Bowcaster? Is that what it's called?
His Bowcaster.
It was like the first time Han, after all these years,
it actually shot it. He's like, whoa. And there's this whole thing throughout the movie of him, I really like this thing. Like,
he keeps on wanting to use
use it.
Bowcaster instead of his...
What was I doing all these years? But, Chewie gets shot in the arm and then the medic is fixing him up and he's
another
growling
something.
She's like, oh, yes.
Yeah,
you must be very
total schoolyard nurse,
right?
Patching you up, making you feel better.
Yeah, it was so funny. This giant 7'6" Wookiee,
right,
just being consoled by this nurse of the Resistance. So really fun part.
Here's a weird itch that wasn't scratched, and this is just my own thing, and I know I'm probably on my own here.
Yeah,
Chewie gets pissed because Han dies.
Right.
I thought there'd be more.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, I think, well, beyond that, I think in my mind there would have been more of a freak out because he was like, and so he hit the detonate button, he's shooting stormtroopers.
Yeah.
But we've never seen Chewie
like full out rage.
We've never actually seen his strength that's always been referenced.
Yeah.
I imagine him, as graphic as this may seem, actually ripping the arms off of a stormtrooper or crushing, like going just barehanded,
just going ape
showing
on people.
Wookiee, but he never did.
He didn't. And
which I was, I'm not sure if I'm alone with that. I was like, Chewie's gonna get pissed because that was one of the things.
I almost felt like he was going to, but I understand because of the setting. Like there wasn't a lot of time.
There's
for that
no
because
hand-to-hand combat anyway.
It was very last minute. We got to get this thing blown up. Blah, blah, blah,
Did Chewie even live? Because he hit that detonate button when he was
we felt like maybe he didn't make it.
Right.
Which that was the theory that a lot of people were putting out, was that Chewie was going to die in Episode 7, and it turned out to be even worse than that. So General Leia,
a little short for a stormtrooper.
Huh?
Not so much a big part.
No, I mean, it's Carrie Fisher, and to be honest, Carrie Fisher has had her struggles in her personal life.
Yes.
And I'm glad they brought her back, but the cheese has thoroughly slid off the cracker there. I love her interviews because of that.
Right.
And I love Carrie Fisher.
Yeah.
Not just because she was Princess Leia, but because of who she is.
She dropped a lot of obscenities on the red carpet. I don't know if you saw that video.
I haven't seen that video
either.
There
was a live stream going on, and they had her and Oscar Isaac interview each other. They're like, oh, why don't you guys just, here's the cards, you do it. And she just started swearing like a sailor at the end of it. And they're like, okay, that just happened.
Yeah. So the one thing is, it's really hard to pull Carrie Fisher away from that. So when I see General Leia, I see Carrie Fisher trying to reprise a role.
I thought the character of Leia was really interesting. She's called a general now. She's still been leading the resistance. She's very torn because her son is now her enemy. So there's that deep complexity, and her and Han have this tension because...
Which, it was really interesting. I really liked the dynamic between the two because they just reference fighting, but right away there was nothing but love. So when they got together, it wasn't like, you dirty old son of a, you left me for your... Right. It wasn't like, it's good to see you again. Yeah. We both had to handle it our own way. There was nothing but understanding there.
Yeah, I thought that was really interesting.
Is that unconditional love?
And I don't think anybody wanted to see Han and Leia fight. I didn't want to see them mad at each other. There was a mutual pain that they shared, and they both realized we had to get through that the way we each had to get through that. So it was really interesting.
So I think she did a good job.
Yeah.
She wasn't in it that much.
No.
But she definitely was General Leia doing her thing once again.
And it definitely was important to the story that she was in it.
Yeah.
Luke Skywalker.
No.
It's not true. That's impossible.
If there was one scene that simmered a little bit too long, it was at the end with Luke.
Yeah.
And there's always that tension there, too.
That helicopter shot.
Yeah, the helicopter shot, unnecessary. Yeah. I thought, because especially...
It looked cool in 3D,
but it looked like a helicopter shot. It took me out of it. And also, as weird as it seemed, it made him seem really small compared to her because of the angle.
Yeah.
I know I'm nitpicking here.
Yeah.
But also, just seeing him reveal his face, and here's Mark Hamill having to reprise not the Luke Skywalker that we knew, but the battle-ridden, aged, disheartened rubbled, because his star student killed all his other students, supposedly, which we haven't seen happen. But
I thought that was a really powerful moment.
And he has to do all the acting without saying a word. And what I got from his face was not, oh, there's my lightsaber, but I'm not sure. I don't want to. No. Reluctance is basically what I saw. Maybe even resentment.
Yeah, I felt there was some reluctance there, but there was definitely, it was just that moment of my past just caught up with me.
Yep.
You know, it was, okay, what do I do with this?
This is going to really play into our predictions because I have a pretty strong out there prediction. It's more of a what I'd like to see than a prediction.
Sure. All right, so Han Solo. I guess we'll wrap up the characters.
Yeah, Han Solo. Man, I just love, and I don't remember the name of those aliens, but they were so Cthulhu-based. Oh, nothing but teeth and tentacles.
Lothars or whatever they were called.
So good.
See, I would say that was probably the scene I could have done without. Like, take it or leave it. I get why it was there, and, you know, it totally puts you back in the life of Han Solo.
Yeah, it was the Han Solo revival.
Right.
It was just like, oh, it's still Han. He's still up to his old antics. Yeah. What has he gotten into this time? But it's, again, big trouble.
The feel of that almost beckoned back to, like, a prequel feel. Like,
because it was so CGI?
It was that, and just, oh, these guys are chasing me, and these guys are chasing me, and, you know, like, oh, these things got loose, and now it's all chaotic, and...
Yeah, I will say...
You know what I'm saying?
One complaint I'll have, and I don't want to interrupt you too much,
no, go for it.
Was the sense of mapping wasn't there. For instance, they're all over the place. What's going on? But the biggest mistake I think they made with that was Finn's looking for Rey. Where the hell's Rey? And then Han's gesturing to him, and they look, and she's across this pit. And then literally 10 seconds later, they're like, hey, and they're bumping into her. Like, is there no security in this place whatsoever?
Nobody saw that? Like
they can just get from one side of this chasm to the other side without any security doors or security personnel or security cameras. What is going on here?
Yeah, that was a bit of a continuity thing. But I can live with that.
Yeah, but you didn't like that scene.
Well, that was the scene at the end when they were on the base. This was the scene in...
Yeah, when I'm saying this scene is, we're going back to on the Millennium Falcon store ship. I don't know. So they have
that big freighter that they have.
We'll just call it the freighter.
Now, and it actually is big enough to capture the Millennium Falcon.
And the two rival gangs
that show up because Han owes one a bunch of money and the other a bunch of money. He's got these big dangerous aliens that he's taking to someone else.
Which I guess is another character that will probably come back is the leader of the one gang.
Because he didn't die. He's like the only one that, maybe there was a couple others that didn't. But
yeah, he didn't die, and he reported that Han Solo has the BB-8 droid to the First Order.
To move on with Han Solo, it was so fun to see Han Solo again. As we've already said, Han Solo dies.
What?
I know.
Plot spoiler.
If there was a death for him to die on screen, I think this was it. I didn't want to see him get shot by some bounty hunter.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to see him, be destroyed by Jabba the Hutt or thrown into a Sarlacc pit or get eaten by a Rancor. It played into the depth of who Han Solo really is. Because in the end, Han Solo always came back. He always helped. He always did the right thing.
Right.
And he was trying to do the right thing.
And he died for it.
Not just for this cause or this resistance, but for his family, for his son. He was trying to do the right thing. He was trying to redeem him.
There was that unconditional love, too, because when he died, his facial expression never changed to betrayal.
Right. He never felt, it was never like he was angry. He was saddened, and he expressed love through his last dying moments. I thought it was fantastic.
It's getting me riled up thinking about it right now.
And leading up to it, he was fun Han Solo.
Right.
When he's asking Finn, what did you do when you were here? I was in sanitation. He's like, sanitation? Like, he just goes off on him. Like wily old scoundrel Han Solo. It was just great.
Which was one of the complaints one of my friends had.
Okay.
One of my friends, Emerson, said, maybe if they spent a little bit more money on training stormtroopers how to shoot instead of building another Death Star, they would do much greater things. And
I have to say, though, stormtroopers killed people in this one.
They did.
Which may be the first time.
The other thing
aside from Aunt Beru and Uncle Owen.
The other thing they said was, why would Finn, who's such a crack shot, be put into sanitation? It was just interesting that would happen.
My rebuttal to that would be maybe he became a better shot, because he was eventually deployed into being a stormtrooper, and there might be that force thing happening.
Yeah,
with
I would agree.
That he can now shoot, like his senses are attuned now.
I think that's exactly
that would be my.
He's just naturally better
rebuttal.
because he's more in tune.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Speaking of complaint,
yes,
you ready for the list now that we're done with characters?
Yeah.
All right. So this is the main.
So there you have it. That's the first part of this special edition Star Wars episode. Whatever you want to call it. Super awesome special podcast with Alan and I. If you want to hear the rest of that conversation and where we were going, you can tune in over at Tuesday Night Games Podcast, or just wait here until we publish it ourselves in the next week or so. Hey, I want to thank you so much for tuning in and listening. I want to thank you all for being a part of the big 12 Days of Christmas contest that we just closed up. It was a huge success and we had a lot of fun. We're looking forward to getting back to our normal routine of writing awesome reviews and podcasting and all the fun stuff that we're doing. So stay tuned to theologyofgames.com. Follow us all over the internet, and we will see you next time. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you. Bye.
You've been listening to the Theology of Games podcast with Jeremiah Isley and Scott Firestone. If you enjoyed this episode, we'd appreciate your subscription to the podcast and your review on iTunes. Thanks for listening. Have a blessed day, and until next time, get a game on the table.